At a warehouse stocked with humanitarian aid, 23-year-old police officer Dmytro Solovy picks up supplies. Food, water, hygiene products and a generator are on the list. He's part of the White Angels unit, and they're heading to his hometown of Avdiivka in the Donetsk region on the Eastern Front, where one of the most fierce and bloody battles is being waged in the war in Ukraine. I was born in this town, he tells me. My neighbours are there, my relatives, my friends. It's my duty to help them. We are their hope. But getting to Avdiivka is a death trap. Shortly after leaving us, with his GoPro rolling, he spots Russian shelling through the windscreen. Look, the bomb has landed. Report incoming of an ugly bastard. And there's another one, he tells his colleague. Russian artillery, mortars and drones target the road, and yet Dmytro remains calm. This perilous journey has become routine, despite multiple close calls. Driving past the sign that proudly states Avdiivka is Ukraine, the town of once 30,000 residents is now deserted, devoid of the living, as almost every single building has been shelled. But surprisingly, some people still live here, including Dr. Vitaly Sintnik, head of the local hospital. Diagnosed with terminal cancer, he's decided he's not going anywhere. We have a job and we do it, he explains. He called the White Angels to evacuate a man who'd just been injured from shrapnel. As they load him into the van, the idle chatter is interrupted.
Minka.
Incoming. It's a mortar, explains the doctor. Sometimes it rustles and then bang. That would be a tank. As the explosions get louder, it's time to go. This is the road to Avdiivka. There is one way in, one way out. We are not allowed to travel to the town, which is 17 kilometres away. The military has banned all media, saying it's just too dangerous. But for the White Angels, they travel on this road multiple times a week, risking their lives to support the less than 1,300 people still living in the town. As the White Angels begin the dangerous drive out, Dmytro reflects. It's very sad what's happening to my town, but one day we'll rebuild Avdiivka and I will live there with my grandchildren. We just need to believe. A belief that keeps this community among the ruins alive. Anna Koren, CNN, on the outskirts of Avdiivka, Ukraine.
In the shadows, but it is hitting the Russians hard, orchestrating cruise missile attacks on Vladimir Putin's Black Sea Fleet, ousting Moscow's forces from oil and gas drilling platforms off the coast of occupied Crimea in a daring amphibious assault, and attacking the Russian capital with long-distance combat drones while maintaining deniability. The man leading the intelligence service GUR is Kirilo Budanov, one of Russia's most feared enemies. I appeal to Russian soldiers, to those who got lucky enough to survive in destroyed trenches, he recently said. It will be even worse. You have a choice: die or save your life. But now Ukraine believes the Russians may have struck back. Kiev saying Budanov's wife, Mariana Budanova, has been poisoned by what they say is, quote, a heavy metal. A Ukrainian source telling CNN Budanova tested positive for both arsenic and mercury poisoning. Ukrainian officials believe the Kremlin could be behind it, like the foreign minister right here on Out Front.
Definitely our intelligence chief is the enemy of Russia, as all of us are, all those who are fighting against Russia. So it's highly likely that Russia is behind it.
Kremlin-controlled media already in a feeding frenzy, rejoicing in the news while seemingly brushing off the allegation.
Maybe she just broke a thermometer during one of the parties with her husband's colleagues. Not very sensational, but Ukrainians and their Western owners literally screamed from such news. and began to blame Putin.
But in a different episode, they brought in a Russian parliamentarian accused of poisoning and killing a former Russian agent in London in 2006 to explain how it would be done.
Was something slipped in her tea and she drank it?
There's no other way to poison food and drink other than to pour it in and slip it in somehow.
In the past, the US and others have accused Vladimir Putin of ordering poison attacks on his opponents. And few groups have enraged the Russian leader more than Ukraine's military intelligence led by Budanov, the former head of Ukraine's foreign intelligence says.
I believe that this was a personal revenge from Putin. Personal revenge for all the shame that the defense intelligence, under the leadership of Budanov, have inflicted on him. Shame that supersedes what Prigozhin has done to him.
And Aaron, the Kremlin hasn't issued direct denial of these allegations, but they do seem to be trying to brush them off as well. The Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, he came out and he said, quote, Ukraine blames Russia for everything. All this, of course, as Kirilo Budanov's wife is battling those effects of that poisoning.
Down a muddy road hedged by a bank of spindly trees and branches sits an old farmhouse. Its owners left some time ago, but it has new residents. These are soldiers from the 47th Mechanised Brigade.
That's where we keep our missiles.
And they're part of the fight for Avdiivka, one of the most fiercely contested battles on Ukraine's eastern front. Camouflaged under the thicket is a Grad, a multiple-launch rocket system from the Soviet era. As outgoing artillery fires from nearby fields, 32-year-old Sasha wishes they had better and more modern weapons.
When you hit with the modern weapons and with the Western weapons, of course, they're more accurate and they bring, let's say, more damage to the enemy.
In the past 2 months, Russia has been sending waves and waves of troops to Avdiivka as they try to encircle the town. But Sasha and his fellow soldiers know this war could become even more difficult if US aid, now under threat, suddenly dries up.
All the delay, it's just the cost, it's the lives of the best Ukrainian people. We have the spirit, we will continue, definitely, but we need some kind of support.
If US Congress does not pass the military aid package, then Ukraine will not receive the advanced weaponry it desperately needs to fight this war. And that means it will have to rely more heavily on decades-old Soviet equipment like this Grad to combat Russian forces who are gaining supremacy on the front line. A sobering reality for these soldiers.